This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, December the 28th, is a New York Mets World Series hero and MVP, who actually wasn't supposed to be the World Series MVP if it wasn't for a certain incident in that 1986 World Series. But people forget that he actually played for the Cincinnati Reds before the New York Mets. He's fondly remembered for his time with Cincy and the Mets, although he did play for other teams. His name is Ray Knight, who is now 71 years old. Ray Knight was born and raised in Albany, Georgia, attending high school. The Cincinnati Reds signed him to a minor league deal, and by 1974, at age 22, he got up to the majors. He would be playing AAA for a few years and all of that. Anyway, the Reds won a couple World Series titles. Well, he was with the Reds, but he wasn't in the majors, so technically he didn't win a ring. In 1977, when he returned to the majors, that's when the Reds did not win a World Series title. Ray Knight was put into the limelight at third base once Pete Rose decided to leave for Philadelphia in free agency. He would bat .318 with 10 home runs, 79 RBIs. Anyway, Ray Knight actually ended up being the first Red to hit 2 home runs in one inning when he did so against the Mets, ironically enough, in 1980. In 1981, he did hit 6 home runs. And then once Johnny Bench decided to move from catcher to third base, in a sense because, being a catcher is sometimes bad enough for the knees, the Reds decided to trade Ray to Houston for Cesar Cedeno, who was quite the star with Houston. Ray Knight would play either first or third base with Houston. He would make the All-Star game in 1982, which was amazing, and all of that. Knight was not batting that well in 1984, and then the Mets decided to pick him up for 3 players to be named later. All 3 were not really that big with the Mets. Manny Lee would soon go on to be a Blue Jay. But anyway, Ray Knight would play third base in platoon with Howard Johnson for the 85-86 season. So practically, the Mets decided to do their own third base platooning, as the Blue Jays had Origin Molnix do so. Knight would only bat .218 in his first full season with the Mets. And there were rumors that the Mets were trying to trade Ray Knight to Pittsburgh for Lee Mazzilli. Unfortunately, that was squashed. Knight decided to adopt a new batting stance in 86 and actually batted .306 with 6 home runs in the month of April. He emerged huge and all that. Ray Knight was part of a bench-clearing brawl at Riverfront Stadium. Eric Davis was trying to steal third base. Knight took the throw from Gary Carter late, brought his glove to Davis's face, and knocked his helmet off. A stare-off ensued, and then Knight decided to hit Davis. The benches went empty, and a lot of ejections. Ed Hearn had to be put in the game, and Carter went to third base. The Mets did win that game in 14 innings. Knight helped out with a .298 batting average with 11 home runs, 76 RBIs, and NL Comeback Player of the Year award. And helping the Mets win 108 games in 1986 didn't hurt either. However, in the 1986 NLCS, he sucked. He only batted .167, or practically 1 hit for every 6 at-bats, against the Astros. Fortunately, though, the Mets won in 6. But Ray Knight would push things going in the World Series, especially with Games 6 and 7. In the bottom of the 10th in Game 6, down 5-3, Ray Knight hit a single after 2 outs. No, sorry. Excuse me. There were a few hits, and then Ray Knight singled to score Gary Carter to make it 5-4. Got Kevin Mitchell to third base. And then once Bob Stanley threw that wild pitch, Ray Knight was on second base. Mitchell scored, we're tied at 5. And then Mookie Wilson, after fouling off a few more pitches from Stanley, hit the slow roller along first that went through Buckner's legs. Ray Knight trotted home from second. Game over. Mets win 6-5. It was just amazing how the Mets pulled that off. And why Bill Buckner was in that game still is a mystery. I mean, maybe it was just nostalgia. But the fact of the matter is, Buckner had terrible legs. And the fact is that Boston used Dave Stapleton as a defensive replacement at first base. And they were undefeated when they did that. Why was Stapleton not in the game? Meanwhile, in Game 7, he hit the home run to break the tie and was given the World Series MVP award. He would bat at .391 with 5 RBIs. In lieu of his terrible NLCS, he had a good World Series. Unfortunately, the Mets could not come up with a contract for Knight, and he was gone after just 2 seasons with the Mets. I thought he played longer. He decided to join the Baltimore Orioles. I actually have a card of him with the Orioles. It was shocking because, he was the first player to join a new team the year after winning the World Series MVP. Unfortunately, though, he played on a crappy team in Baltimore, only won 67 games. Knight did bat .256 with 65 RBIs and got 14 home runs, which wasn't really his fault. But then Baltimore decided after the season to trade him to Detroit. He would be practically the first baseman / DH for the Tigers for 1988, and then decided to retire. So it was kind of a weird career. You win the World Series MVP, and then you can't find a contract, and then you sign with Baltimore, and then they send him to Detroit. Anyway, 13 seasons with the Reds, Astros, Mets, Orioles, and Tigers. He batted .271 lifetime, 84 home runs, 595 RBIs. Knight would soon be a well-renowned broadcaster for ESPN. And anyway, Ray Knight would become the Reds manager in 1996, going for a couple of years. Of course, 97, midway through the season, he was fired for Jack McKeon. But from 07 to 18, he was a broadcaster for Washington. Well, he was co-host of Washington's pregame and postgame show. He was known as Silver Fox. So as a manager, he was 125 and 137. Not really the best. And all that. Ray Knight did not want to come to the 1986 Mets reunion in 2006 at Shea Stadium, but he had previous commitment. Anyway, Knight had a massive marriage. He actually married LPGA golfing icon Nancy Lopez in 1982. They met by chance at a stadium in Tokyo in 1978, and they have 3 daughters, Ashley, Erin, and Tori. But they were divorced in 2009. Doesn't matter what happens here. Ray Knight did participate in the 30 for 30 ESPN about the 1986 Mets. And he was a decent player for the Mets. But hard to believe he only played 2 full years for the Mets. And he was a World Series MVP. And then he left for Baltimore. Not really the storybook ending for a World Series MVP, don't you think? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.